Hi, my name's Cristhianjmh, and this is my coming out story. So, one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this video was because, in the process of my coming out story, I remember watching a lot of these types of videos, and they really helped me a lot. And I think, for me personally, I wanted to spread my story so that other people could potentially be inspired. And so, if this video can at least help one person, then I think it's going to be worth it for me to tell my story. Um, yeah, my story was definitely not one that was, I don't know if any of them are easy, but a lot of things were said to me that weren't really that great to hear at the time. My parents, my family members. And so my story is kind of one that may be a little bit different than what other people have gone through. And so I really, really hope that this is helpful to someone. And yeah. So my story begins back to when I was about 5 years old. So originally I was born in Honduras, and so my family actually moved to Richmond, Virginia when I was 7. And so I spent some of my childhood back in Honduras, and so I remember being 5 and having this huge crush on one of my friends. He was a boy just like me, same friend group. I don't remember what he looks like or what his name was, but I just remember having like these feelings. And so, I mean, at that time I was 5, so I barely knew what emotions were. And Honduras is a very traditional country, so I did not know what the words gay and homo were. Family and I had never talked about such terminology, and so it was, I had no words for what I was feeling at that time. I was 5, nothing happened. Just the kind of like the earliest memory I have of something like that happening. Um, yeah, so that happened, and then I moved to Richmond, Virginia when I was 7. So I spent the rest of my childhood there, my teenage years. Growing up, I remember in middle school, 8th grade, um, we were in a drama class, and this guy comes up to me and he asks if I'm gay. Um, and in my mind, I'm like, no, like, no, are you? Because like that was like kind of a defense mechanism that I had developed over the years. And so that kind of like, that question at that point in my life offended me. Because I wasn't sure what I was. I didn't want people to assume that I was gay when, um, because at that point everyone was bullying the gay kid, everyone was making gay jokes and stuff like that, and so I didn't want to be that person that everyone was laughing at. And so I was like, no. And so from that point forward, I kind of asked myself, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing that's making me look like the typical gay boy that everyone picks on? And so I kind of started to change some of those things. Um, I wasn't like a very masculine kid. Like in middle school, I was sort of a girly boy. I had a lot of friends that were girls. Um, did no sports, and so I kind of started to change that. My family had always wanted me to play soccer, my parents specifically, and I had always told them no. And so at some point, um, I started playing soccer with my friends all the time. We played soccer every day from probably 7th grade to uh, the end of senior year of high school. And so um, every day we would go out and play, and then I wanted to prove to people that I wasn't gay at that point. And so went on to high school, played for the team, um, and then that was one of the ways that I kind of blocked everything that made me feel like I was gay. I didn't want to label myself as a gay guy because I didn't want all the stigma of being gay to come back to me. Um, and so at that point in my life, I was still trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted. I dated a girl for a week when I was 12 or 13, um, just to like try to get myself out there, try to prove to myself that I wasn't gay and that I could like girls. And then throughout my entire high school career, I would find girls attractive and pretty, and then I would try to go beyond that. I would try to get myself to like find him sexually appealing. But it was never a thing that happened. I remember I would pray a lot to God and ask him why he had made me this way, why out of everyone, why couldn't I just be normal, and why couldn't I just like girls and enjoy living a normal life, growing up, having a girlfriend, getting married, having kids, having a family that was normal. Like, why did I have these feelings that I didn't want to have towards guys? Um, and so that put me through a lot of emotional distress. Um, it was definitely hard. And so I think that's one of the reasons why during high school I didn't want to be the talk of the school for any reason. I I was definitely known, like academically, socially, and stuff like that. But I was outside of those like normal things. I did not do much because I didn't want to be exposed. I didn't want any attention drawn to me, and so high school, I just or like the beginning of high school, I just kind of stayed in shell. At some point during junior year, I started to realize that this is who I was, and that there was nothing that I could do to change myself. I was gay and I liked guys. So at that point, I think I had accepted the fact that I was gay. Like I would still ask God, why me? Like why do I have to go through this? I just wanted to be a normal kid, live a normal life, and then just be happy. So it was hard for me, obviously, but at that point, I think I had accepted who I was. But I knew that I wanted to come out after I graduated high school, just because um, high school was already like hard enough for me. I didn't want to explain to all of these people that I probably wouldn't see for some time or ever who I was. And so I told myself, oh, we're going to wait till after high school. This was the year that gay marriage was legalized. So at that point, I had graduated high school. I had still not come out to my parents. The decision the Supreme Court made on June 26th of 2015, that's kind of when it hit me. I posted a photo, I believe it was on my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, where um, I said something along the lines of, I'm happy to see where this country's headed, like equality for all is what we need and like it's what's right. And after posting that, I felt like a hypocrite, seeing all of this stuff and knowing that I was one of the gay people that was benefiting from the decision. And so 2 days later, I actually decided to come out to my family. And so throughout the entire summer, I was actually working away at my sister's fiance's restaurant. And so I was a server for the entire summer. And so I was an hour away from home. And so I would work all week and then come back during the weekends. I came back home the weekend after the decision was made. And that same night that I came back was when I came out to my mom. Um, Coming out to my mom was definitely hard. I actually spent about 2.5 hours just kind of going upstairs to my room and then coming back down and not having the courage to tell her that I was gay. So I would come down from my room downstairs, see her, just freeze and panic, and pretend I just came down to the kitchen. I would go back upstairs, start crying, and start realizing that I couldn't do this. There was something that I really could not do. I couldn't tell her that I was gay. Doing that would hurt her so much, and so I went back and forth between downstairs and upstairs for about 2.5 hours, and then it was around like 10:15 p.m. and I came downstairs. I looked at her, and then she looked at me. She was sitting on the couch, and I remember just running next to her, and I remember just putting my face on one of the couch pillows and started and I started crying. I had already been crying, but every time I came downstairs, I would try to make myself like look like I wasn't crying and stuff like that. And so I went there, ran to the couch, to the pillow, and started bawling. And then she asked me, "What's wrong?" And I just kept crying and crying, and she kept asking, "What's wrong? Like, what's the matter?" And I would tell her that I was sorry. I was like, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And as I still was crying, and then she was like, "What's wrong? Just tell me." And then as I was crying, I literally go, "Mom, I'm gay." And she goes, "What?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm gay." And then my mom starts crying. And she asked God why her son was gay. She asked God what she had done wrong and whether she had been a bad mother, whether she hadn't been there for me, like she didn't know why I was gay. She asked me, she said, "How do you know?" And I told her, I said, "How do you know you like men? Like you're just attracted to them, right? That's how I know." And she literally could not believe it. And so then she called my two sisters, um, who each lived like 30 minutes away. And so then my two sisters came to our house, and my mom told them, and they could not believe what they were hearing. Um, a lot of things were said to me. A lot of things were, "I already had your future planned out. I imagined you with a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, great jobs." Um, and then they all asked themselves, like, what did we all do wrong? Like why would God do this to us? Like, why would He give us a gay son and a gay brother? Like, I don't understand. We were there for you. Like, what happened? And I was like, well, nothing happened. It just, that's who I am. Like, I can't, I like men and I want to be with a guy. Like, I don't want to be with a girl. I've tried it. I, I can't get myself to like them. Um, and so they asked me the same questions my mom had, like, how do you know? How do you know? And like, how do you know it's not just a phase? And then they started asking me all these different questions. And this whole talk went on for about 4 hours. It was two by the time we were done. But I remember that one of my sisters actually, she brought her fiance with her. And then I will always remember this because it wasn't one of my family members who actually showed me the love and care that I needed that night. It was someone who had just walked into my life as sort of an extra. Um, yeah, and so I was crying and crying, and then I think at some point I wanted to go upstairs back to my room and cry more just because I couldn't handle being around them anymore. And as I was leaving, um, my future brother-in-law stopped me and said, "You know what? It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you like. Just know that I will always love you and that I will always be there for you." And so that to me kind of made it all worth it at that point. Um, so then I came back to the group. So I knew I wanted to do it in person because I wanted them to have time to take it all in and ask me questions right then and there. And so I did not want to do it over text or over a call because I knew that it would be a lot harder for them. Um, and so that's why I did it in person. And I think that's, for me, that was the best way that I could have done it. And so after 4 hours, they were, my my family was like, "Well, we don't think it's right. Um, we don't think it's right, like what you want us to accept you as, but we love you either way. Like, it's not going to change. Like, you're still our little brother, and you're still my son. Like, I don't support what you're doing or who you are, but I can't stop loving you just because of that. And so um, that was a hard point for me too, just because I knew that they hadn't fully accepted who I was, or like had appreciated and loved me fully. But I also knew that they would never stop loving me as a brother and as a son. And so then all that happened, and before going up to my room, I remember telling my Mom, you can't tell Dad. Like, I will tell Dad when I'm ready, but you cannot tell him yet." And so my parents are separated, um, and so my dad does not live with us, and so I specifically told her not to tell him, and because I had work um, the week right after this, and so I was going to go back to work and then come back and tell him the next weekend. And so I told her that, and she was like, "Okay, like, I'm not going to." And so I go to work the next week, and then in the middle of the week, I get a call, and it's from my mom, and she tells me that she's told my dad everything. And then I'm like, "No, like, how could you do that? Like, that's not fair. Like, this is my time, this is my thing. Like, I want to do it myself." And my dad, he didn't bother to call me. He knew what was going on, and so I didn't call him either. So I went back home during the weekend, and my dad actually came to the house, and we had a conversation. He came in. We did our usual routine of like a hug and a kiss, and then we talked about it. He sat down, and before this, I thought that out of everyone, my dad was going to be the one that was the most supportive. I was completely wrong. He was kind of the harder one to win over. Um, he had been born and he grew up in Honduras, and so um, he was more of the traditional. He had his traditional views about everything, and so we were chatting, and then he kept asking me, um, like, "You're gay? Like, this is not a normal thing. Like, you're not gay. Like, you can't be this way." And I was like, "Dad, like, I am. I can't change. I've tried. I've prayed to God. I can't do it. Like, this is who I am." And he said, like, "No, you're not. Like, this is not who you are." Um, and then he said some pretty hurtful things. He offered to take me to a doctor so that the doctor could give me some medication to help me fight and help me get through whatever disease I was going through. Um, he offered to take me to a therapist so that the therapist could help me become straight. Um, and then growing up, he told me how my grandfather knew that he was kind of like a shy kid and a shy boy. And so he had taken him to a prostitute back in Honduras just so that he could learn how women worked and how the body of a female worked and how to properly take care of it and to like have sex with a female. And so uh, that was his third option. He offered to take me to a prostitute so that I could learn to appreciate the female body and um, how it was a man's job to be with a female and love a female and make it his wife. And to me, that was probably the hardest comment that I could have ever gotten from someone who I loved and admired. And so I told him, I was like, "I'm not going to do any of those things. Like, you can't force me, and that's not going to help in any other way. I can't have sex with a female." So I told him I'm not going to do it. Like, I can't. I'm not changing. I can't change. Like, this is who I am, and I've accepted it, and you should too, because I'm not going to change. And so then my dad left. Uh, we didn't talk for about 2 weeks. And so during those 2 weeks, I kind of just moved on. I didn't really think I was ever going to talk to him again. I would probably see him at family functions and everything like that, but nothing more than a simple hello. Uh, and then at some point, he came over the house and we talked over things. And we were at a better place. He said that he still loved me and that I was his son, and no matter what, I would still be his son, and that he would always love me. And I loved him too. I mean, he was my dad. The comments that he made, yes, they were hurtful, but I also had to keep in mind that where he grew up and how he grew up was a lot different than where I was growing up. Um, he had grown up in Honduras, which is, again, a very traditional country with a lot of conservative values and beliefs. And so, to me, I kept that in my mind, and although I was really angry at him for saying all those things, I also remember that he is my dad, and I also love him. Once that talk happened, things were a lot better, and so going in, I knew that my parents, my family, would need a lot of time to digest and take all of this in, and I was willing to give them that time. It was definitely the most challenging and the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Um, it sucks that it has to be that way. Like, I really hate that that was the most stressful thing that I've been through, but it was. Um, but with time, it got better. Now, 3 years after, I'm completely grateful that they're now accepting and loving, and that they know that I am who I am and I'm not going to change, and they accepted that, and they love me no matter what. Like, that's something that I know that everyone has. If you're watching this video and you identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community, you know that it's hard to even get yourself to love and accept who you are. And so a lot of time for everyone else and everyone around you to do that. That's what a lot of them need. And so just be there, be open to questions, answer their questions, and just show that you're still the same person no matter what. You're still the little guy or the gal they love. So yeah, now things are in a much better place. Like I said, my entire family is accepting of it. Now, and I don't have to live in the shadows, and that's probably one of the best things that came out of this. Um, I am free to love who I want to love, and I know that my family will love them just as much. And that makes me really happy. If you had told me 4 or 5 years ago that I could be this happy being myself, I would have told you that that wasn't possible. Because at that point in my life, I was at such a low that it was hard for me to even think about what could be possible. Um, and just know that even if your family is not accepting of who you are, there are people out there who are willing to give you that love and support that the people in your family might not be able to. And so just remember that you're not alone. Even though you feel like you may be alone at times, you're really not alone. There are people like you going through similar experiences. And there are people like you that have gone through it, that can help you, that can give you some support, and can alleviate some of the pain that I know that you're going through. And just know that it's okay. You are who you are, and you can't hide who you are from yourself. You probably know that you've tried doing it for so long. It's hard. It takes a toll. It's emotionally and physically draining. So just be you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and tell me your story. I would be more than happy to listen and to answer any questions that you may have. It's definitely a hard thing to go through. So just know that you don't have to do it by yourself. I'll put my Instagram and Twitter handles in the description box below, so please feel free to reach out. And then I'll also put links to some resources that may be some help, either for yourself or for your friends. Yeah, so that's my story. I know it's a little bit long, and I'm sorry for that, but these types of videos helped me when I was trying to figure out who I was, and they encouraged me to come out. And I think this was an important step for me in my journey as well, to share my story and to potentially help others like me who are struggling and who don't know what to do. And so I'm thankful that I'm able to share this. So thank you.